Welcome to Type Tune 10. I'm Tom Kranz. Isn't it remarkable how creativity so often has its roots in darkness, as if beauty insists on finding its voice in the places we least expect? Today's guest, Cheri Carandanis, never even picked up a paintbrush until after suffering a debilitating brain injury 6 years ago. In fact, the suggestion that she try coloring as part of her recovery seemed ludicrous. But look at her now. This Air Force veteran and former career nurse is a full-time artist, selling her work and living a creative life she never could have imagined. And I'm joined by Cheri Carandanis from her home in Portland, Oregon. We are once again separated by 3,000 miles. I seem to be specializing in guests who live in faraway places here in New Jersey. Not that I want to make you feel jealous, but it's been 90 degrees for 6 days in a row. We had some bad floods lately. We have high humidity. So I don't know what it's like in Portland, but I'm glad I'm inside in my air-conditioned little home here. How you doing, Cheri?
I'm great, and the weather's been beautiful here.
Great. I don't want to hear any more because it sucked here in New Jersey. It's supposed to be we're supposed to get a beach day, I think, tomorrow or Friday. Anyway, we're here to talk about kind of Cheri's several lives. Her current life is as a full-time artist, and I gave you a little bit of preview in our opening here. Cheri's work is just unbelievable. She's in her studio here, converted office in her home. But this is what you do, right? You paint, and you sell your paintings, and doing pretty well, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's a whole different life. Like you said, I think I have lived many lives. But this is just, it turned into a business, but mainly I paint because it heals me.
Yeah.
And it helps me connect with people. It really does.
I'm sure it does. So you started this in 2019 seems to be a key date in your life. But let's just go back a little bit. So you started as a military brat living in multiple different places, correct?
Yes. Mostly grew up in England. My dad spent 8 years being stationed there. So I graduated from high school there.
Oh, really? Okay. And then you ended up in the military yourself, right?
I did. And I swore I never would.
Yeah, but you did, right? And what did you do?
I did. I was a critical care nurse during peacetime. So during peacetime, I would be in the ICUs at the military hospitals. And then during wartime, which I was in during 9/11, I became a critical care flight nurse. And so I was part of the critical care air transport teams.
So where were you? Did you deploy to any faraway, horrible places?
I did a quick 4-month deployment to Saudi Arabia before 9/11 for Operation Northern Watch. But then once 9/11 happened, I was deployed to Afghanistan.
Ah, okay. And how was that? How long were you there?
I was deployed for 7 months. And we would move around in that theater of operations. So Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Turkey, and then we'd fly to Germany to take the patients to higher levels of care. It was the honor of my life to serve in that way. But
you were glad it was over, I bet. Right?
Yeah, I was glad to come home.
And so did you end up treating soldiers, like wounded guys and girls?
Yeah.
That's what you did.
Yeah, we were a specialized team that would be able to take ICU level of care closer to the front lines. So we would set up mini ICUs in any aircraft that was available to us.
Wow. So you spent a lot of time in helicopters.
Not in helicopters, mostly cargo planes and big like C-130s, C-17s, things like that. The helicopters, we were trained to go in helicopters, but it was mostly like special ops guys that would go to the front lines.
Okay.
And they were amazing. And they would stabilize people, bring them to us at the MASH units, which were the tent hospitals.
Sure.
And then we'd stabilize them even further and then take them to higher levels of care.
Okay. So you were Loretta Swit, basically, right?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, she played Hot Lips in the series MASH. She was a nurse in a MASH unit with Alan Alda.
Then that's who I was.
You're too young to know that show, damn it. Yeah, that's
cool. I remember
cool.
MASH.
Okay, yeah. No,
and Radar.
Well, you said Radar. MASH unit, and that's exactly what I thought of when you talked about. I mentioned to you earlier, I was an EMT for some time here in New Jersey, and we did I would say in the 22 years I did it, I was involved in maybe, I don't know, half a dozen medevac things. They really, where we are here physically, it's always you decide whether is it worth going on the Garden State Parkway 30 minutes to the trauma center by car or be given traffic and whatnot, should we fly the patient? We're close
Right.
enough so that most of the time we could drive, but depending on time of day, sometimes we flew. And I always had this real admiration for the flight nurses and the flight crew because, they're doing this in this little tiny space in this
Yeah.
jet helicopter. There's
Yeah.
basically room for the patient to lie flat on a backboard,
Yeah.
and then the flight nurse is over here, and then
Yeah.
maybe there's an EMT here and maybe not, and then there's the pilot. I just thought that
Yeah.
was like, it was always exciting for us little BLS guys to go on that, but I know that was a whole thing. So you
Yeah.
did that, and then you were out, and then here back in the mainland, you became an RN, like a nurse. In what kind of a setting did you do that in?
So as a civilian nurse, I kind of felt like I was burnt out of the ICU type setting.
Hmm.
And I not any plan, but I fell into hospice nursing. And that was another amazing career move that I enjoyed so much. It
Hmm.
was it was just it's a sacred time, the dying and being there for them and their families. I learned so much. I did it for about 15 years, about 10 years of it or so, 10 or 12 years. I was a nurse that took care of the patients and their families. But then I got my master's degree in nursing leadership and became a nurse manager. So I got to
Hmm.
take care of the nurses.
Hmm.
And that was amazing. I love taking care of the nurses.
Wow. Yeah, we have a hospice very close to where I live here, and a friend of ours does, I think, patient relations and
Mhm.
she kind of deals with the families.
Yeah.
And I remember on at least two occasions as an EMT, I ended up transporting people to hospices, and that transport is always it's such a weird moment because those people, both of those patients, happen to be fully aware of what was going on and where they were going. And it's like, for my little, me little schlepper BLS guy, the main question number one is, what do we talk about in the ambulance
Mm.
as you go to what's going to be the
Yeah.
last place you sleep in? So
Yeah.
I think it takes really special people to do that. And I saw some of them, and you were one of those folks. So I'm sure you made a lot of impact on a lot of people. All right. And then in 2019, things came crashing to a halt, quite literally. So tell us
Really
about
did.
what changed your life in 2019.
In 2019, I suffered two separate brain injuries, and they were 6 months apart. The first one was from a fall, and I hit the back of my head, and so it was a concussion type brain. There, I guess all brain injuries are type of concussion. The second was as a result of a car accident, and so that one's the one that just undid me, cognitively, physically, emotionally. Um, and with a lot of the deficits came the cognitive deficits, which, with the type of brain injury I had, my eyes became unteamed. And
Hmm.
so it was difficult to read. It was difficult just to negotiate my environment. Also, I had a lot of proprioceptive problems. Like my brain just was not talking to my feet. There was a disconnect. And so just negotiating the world became a thing.
Well, did
And
you require surgery?
no, no, no,
Well, that's
sir.
something anyway.
Yes,
Cut your
yes.
head open.
No, no, no. I was able to do all of it outpatient, which was nice. But even being a nurse for 25 years, I thought, oh, I could kind of understand what it would be like. I had no idea.
Yeah, sure.
Being on the other side of the bed is just totally different.
And what was that like? Were you frustrated? Were you pissed that you couldn't do this yourself, that you actually needed help and you needed somebody like you to help you?
Yeah. And you run into doctors that aren't a good fit and they're just like, well, this is your new normal, take an antidepressant, you'll be fine, just kind of accept it. And I just couldn't. I just, in 2020, my nursing license came due to be renewed. And I knew I couldn't safely practice nursing anymore.
Wow.
I could not trust my brain. And so I retired my license, and that
Wow.
was tough. It was so tough. So then that threw me into depression because I just was like, well, now who am I? What do I do?
Right. And
What?
this must have had an impact on your family, I'm guessing as well,
Oh,
right? because you
Yes,
end up bringing that home no matter how much you don't want to.
that's right. And my boy, we have two boys, and at the time they were teenagers, and it was tough. And, they had this very capable mother that was, independent and kind of, all over the place with, my hands and everything. And then they were taking care of me.
Mm.
And so it was difficult for all of us, but I am very grateful that I have a family that's so loving and so supportive. Um,
Oh,
we
that's
got through
awesome.
it together.
Reading
Yeah,
through your website, it seems like your faith was also a big part in your recovery, correct?
absolutely. Absolutely. I felt like God, I went through my time. I was mad at God. I was so mad. And I was so bitter about, like, why would this happen to me? Like, why would you take away the one gift that I felt like I
Mm.
had to offer the world as a
Yeah.
healer and as a nurse? And I really went through an identity crisis. I didn't know who I was, and that made me do the work, right? And I had to figure out who I was outside of nursing, outside of being a mother and a wife. Who is Cheri?
And so, now it's 6 years later, looking and talking to you, I, of course, would have no clue this all happened to you. So that's good. I mean, do you have any lasting effects of that?
Yeah, mostly it's dealing with neurofatigue. And so when the brain gets overwhelmed in, environmental situations, noises,
Mm.
sights, sound, the brain, it feels like, the only way I can explain is it feels like a substation, like it just goes, hmm. It's like, I'm not gonna work for you right now.
Oh,
And
geez.
so all you can do is just remove yourself from those situations and leave. And I have vestibular issues still with, especially when the environment is unfamiliar or if the terrain is not flat, and
Sure.
it's just, my brain's like, oh, wait, new environment. So it just takes extra energy for
Gotcha.
me to negotiate my environment and to make sure I don't fall again.
Can you
That's my
drive?
fear. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're
I
mobile and
couldn't
you're,
drive probably for a couple of years, but then slowly got back into it.
oh, good for you. Well, I'm glad you're, what, 98% perhaps, can we say?
Yeah. Yeah. I just have my bad days once in a while, but my good days are outnumber the bad days now. So
All right. Well,
I'm grateful.
speaking of good and good days, part of your recovery, I guess at some point, art was introduced as part of your therapy. Is that correct? So how
Yeah.
did that happen?
So it was two different conversations I had, one with the functional neurologist, and then one with my psychologist. And we were talking, and they said, the left side of your brain is what took the hit, and there's the damage. Unfortunately, you lived there, very analytical,
Mm.
very sciencey. Um, we need to wake up the right side and get it working so it can start making the pathways, bridge those pathways together. And so, not knowing what the right side, what did that look like in life? Like, what does that mean? And they said it's creativity, presence, mindfulness, intuition. And I thought, oh, goodness,
Yeah, right. Oh, all that stuff.
that's going to be weird
Yeah,
and a lot of
it's like
woo.
watching an Oprah show, all those words floating around out there. All right, so what? One day they said, here's a paintbrush and some
No, they
paints.
told me to go get an adult mandala coloring book,
Oh
like
yeah?
this color. And I said, okay. So I did. And I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. It was horrible. I ripped up the book, and I think I was just in that moment, like, you are handing me a coloring book? Like, literally, you're telling me this is my life now? Like, I'm
Oh
going to
boy.
color? Like, no, my life is bigger than this. It has to be. And so I kind of got frustrated. But, I was watching YouTube, as we do. And I saw this woman painting on a big canvas,
Mm.
and she was painting abstract. And I don't know, it connected. I got it. I'm like, she's painting her feelings. She's not painting a house. She's not painting a bird. She's not painting the ocean. She's painting her feelings. And I felt like my intuition kicked in, was like, you need to do that.
Mm.
And so I just got a big cardboard from my dad. He just bought a big screen TV. So I cut the cardboard out, and I got my kids' school paints out, and I went to town on that cardboard, and something broke open.
Wow.
I loved it.
That's amazing. I mean, I just looking at your paintings, it's like it's amazing to me that you didn't even pick up a brush until what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
I didn't seriously pick up her before. I thought, oh, it'd be fun to paint
Yeah,
and do a
geez.
little, or whatever, photography or whatever the thing was at the time that people were
Yeah.
trying to do.
Well, this is what fascinates me. And this started to fascinate me back after I left broadcasting for 30 years. I worked as an assisted living director of communications. And as part of that
Oh,
job, I went to the different buildings and I met a lot of the older folks there. And it just surprised me that so many of them, mostly because they were bored out of their minds, they bought like a canvas and they bought some acrylic paints or some watercolors and they painted and like they were good. Not all of them. Some of the
yeah.
paintings looked like they were done in third grade, but some of them were like, did you ever? No, and to me, that always told me that every one of us has creativity that's just kind of lurking and we don't know
Yes,
about it because we're either afraid of it or, as my friend Casey Kaufman told me, we don't think we have permission to
that's right.
paint and to write. Casey was a news anchor for 30 years in Boston. In her early 60s, she started sketching with pencil in a book. And then she bought acrylic paints, and now she's like selling paintings in the New England area. And it's like she's
Wow.
kind of like you. She found it late in life, and then or
Yeah.
later. You're not
Yeah.
as late
Yeah.
in as her, but in a kind of a different after doing other things, and now
Yes.
she's successful just like you. So you sit and now you paint. What is your medium? Are these acrylics or oils or what?
Acrylic and kind of, I'll
Okay.
sometimes collage in there. I'll use oil sticks, whatever.
And do you paint
Charcoal.
do you paint every day?
I try to paint every day, but I tend to find that my process is, if I only have like an hour or two in my schedule, I find like I'm not going to be able to get in flow, and I am addicted to getting into flow. Like that
Hmm.
is my thing. So I try to clear out Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, kind of for painting, and I just get lost in it.
So
I
once you
just get lost.
start, you just keep going and going and going.
Yeah, I'll look up and it's 6 hours later, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that sounds like writing. When I get into like when the house is quiet and my wife's at
Yeah.
work and the dogs are sleeping and I actually sit down and like shut everything else, suddenly 3 hours go by. And
Yes.
unfortunately, in my case, I look at what I wrote and then I delete it and come back in 10 minutes and start again. But that's my,
I do that too. I go over it, I sand it down, I build it back up. It's
all
just
right. Now
layers
that,
and
and
layers.
that's a perfect segue to talking about this one painting that you highlight on your website. The painting is called Scarred. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you spent a lot of time talking about this. You did this entire blog story, but basically this painting started out as just a bunch of random splashes on this large canvas. What is that? You called it a slop board. What's that mean?
So slop board is kind of like, I don't like wasting paint. So if I'm finished with the painting and there's still a bunch of paint on my palette, I will get a canvas out and I'll just start putting that paint on that canvas just because I don't want to waste the paint. And so I feel like it's going to be a first layer to something. Like
Oh,
it'll just be a first layer to something. So it's kind of my um, place to be messy and not care about the outcome. And I
sure.
just slop it all on there. And so I call it a slop board.
So that's how it started, and it started with, I mean, and as a slop board goes, it kind of looks cool anyway. Lots of
Yeah.
colors and lots of different shapes and stuff.
Yeah.
But then you accidentally put a big gash in that canvas, right? How'd
Yeah.
you do that, by the way?
So I was using a palette knife to put the paint on
Ah,
because
okay,
it was a 48 by 60. I
yeah.
think it's a big canvas.
Hmm.
And so I was using the palette knife and I think I remember that day I was emotional and I was just kind of slapping all the paint onto that board and the tip of the palette knife caught
Hmm.
the canvas and sliced it.
Right.
And I was like, oh, so frustrating. And so I kind of looked at it and I thought, well, it's not sellable. It's not, it's ripped. So I took it out to the garbage and I was trying to figure out like, how do I put it in it was so big. I thought I was going to have to break it
Too
down
big
and
for
stick it.
garbage. Yeah.
Exactly. And as I was trying to figure out how to break it and get it into the garbage, this voice in me was like, you're broken. God didn't throw you away. Like it just stopped me. And I was like,
Hmm.
huh, okay. So don't throw this away right now. But I didn't know what to do with it. So I just stuck it in the back of my piles and just went about my business. And a few months later, I saw it and I took it back out and I said, well, maybe I should look at this again. Maybe there's something there. And as I put it up on the easel and I backed up, I could start to see the outline of a woman's face. Like I could just see little lines that would indicate like, oh, that looks like a mouth. This looks like, and so I thought, that's a woman. And so I just kind of started painting out this figure that I was seeing, and her eyes were closed. And as I was building up the painting, there were just lots of layers going into it. I just got lost. And then when I looked at it again, I backed up and looked at it again. I realized the scar, the rip was on her face. That's where it landed, on her face. And so the nurse in me thought, I'll stitch it. I will mend it. Wow. So I found some red yarn and I just sewed it in, and it was so cool. Like I thought, oh my gosh, that's really, really interesting to me that now there's this other, medium involved.
Yeah. Look at you. And you made art out of garbage.
I did.
Yeah.
I did, just like God does.
Okay.
And so, I just kept working on her, and she's stunning. She's like my hero piece. She was purchased by the attorney that represented me in my car accident.
Wow. Like, I'm surprised you let that one go. Christ, I think I hold on to that.
It would have to be to a very special person. And she walked me through hell. Yeah. And that woman saw my transformation and appreciated that.
Well, so do you think the woman in that painting is you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do in many ways. Yeah. I have my scars, and so does everyone. It can be anyone really. But for me, I felt like just the way the way her face is and how she has her eyes closed, she looks peaceful, but like she's embattled.
As I go through a lot of the paintings on your website, I see that you write, there's a story to almost every one of them. So is it fair to say that each one of these paintings is kind of a part of you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My husband often asks, is it hard to let them go? Like if someone wants to buy them, even when someone commissions a piece, the commission becomes a part of me. I pour myself into them. And I said, it's not hard to let go, because I really do believe that these pieces have work to do out in the world. They are for someone. If I just keep them all here, what are they for? They're just for me. I have to send them out into the world, because it's, hopefully someone will connect with it and see a part of their life in it.
Yeah.
And I love it when the paintings find homes.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. This reminds me of a little interview I saw Stephen King do. Well, he's one of my favorites only because I don't know if you've ever seen him interviewed. He is a riot. He doesn't look like a riot. He looks kind of like he's got that Frankenstein face.
Yeah.
He has an unbelievable sense of humor, and he's very self-deprecating about his writing, right?
Okay.
So somebody asked him during this interview, they were talking about Salem's Lot, which is one of his early big books. And the guy asked him, he said, do you ever read Salem's Lot? Do you ever read your work?
Yeah.
He says, no. He says, I consider all the works that I've done, I consider them dead skin. That's the phrase he used.
What?
It's all gone. It's done. I'm finished.
I shed it.
I shed it. I'm moving on. And I just thought that was funny, as opposed to Samuel L. Jackson, the actor, who I've seen interviewed. And he watches all his movies all the time. He loves watching his old movies.
Interesting.
Right? And, I've written 8 books at this point, and I'm right in the middle. Every once in a while, I revisit a book I wrote a few years ago just to see how, what I would change. And it's a horrible thing to do, because I always look at stuff that I would change and say, I can't believe I wrote that. But then I'm kind of happy about it, So anyway, I hope that every time you look at your work, you're always happy about what you did, and it brings back the feeling you had while you were painting it.
That's the important thing, is I remember the feelings. Obviously, I will always critique my work. And when is a painting ever finished?
Yeah. Some might say never, I guess, right?
Yeah, never.
Are either of your boys artistic? Are they inclined to paint or do anything artistic? Just
Our oldest son is a writer. He's a journalist and
sweet.
A writer. So he loves the creative arts. Like he interns at the Oregon Ballet, at the Portland Art Museum. Like He's very much creatively minded.
Oh, good for
But
him.
like you, I believe everyone has creativity in them. It's just they're going to find it in different ways, different
Yeah,
times.
look at how you found yours. Let's hope you don't have to do that again.
Yeah, I'm pretty thick
But
in the head. God was probably like, girl, let's just stop your life and interrupt everything.
yeah, no kidding. Wow. What do you see going forward? You're just going to paint and paint and paint until you're sick of it? You'll probably never be sick of it, I guess, right?
Yeah, I hope I never get sick of it. Yeah, I want to keep painting. What I'm learning now is that my stories are just as important as the paintings.
Mm.
And so doing these podcasts, I've only been doing these for a couple of months now, but it's such a fun way to, because I believe when someone buys a painting in today's world, they don't just buy the painting, they buy the artist.
I
And
agree.
so any way for me to get my story out there and to connect with people and hear their stories and, to just show this side of myself that, is real and honest, I think it's just good. It's just good for the world. And so I don't know. I think there's some healing retreats coming up that I've been asked to participate in as a facilitator. And so I think that's exciting to go and teach people about how creativity can heal your body, your mind, your psyche. So powerful. And we don't take time to do it. And we all can do it.
Yeah. So, I think that stories like you are just so inspirational to people. There's somebody out there who's going to hear your story. And this goes for several other guests I've had who say, if she could do that after that, then I can do this after what happened to me.
That's right.
I think it not only gives people hope, but it keeps people's lives in perspective. When you think about how crappy you think your life is, and you see people who have come through all kinds of adversity, addiction, trauma, injuries, it's like, wow, okay, there is a way forward.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's so much trauma in our lives and loss. Like the thing that kind of sparked the start of my business part of my art journey, my dad was tragically killed. Like he was killed fishing. He loves fishing, and a sneaker wave killed him, just took him out.
Jeez, really?
And lost to sea. It's a long story. There's also a blog post about that called Ocean of Tears on my website. And 2 sea lions brought his body back to us, basically. That's incredible. Like the Coast Guard was out searching for hours and they couldn't find him. And 2 sea lions swam him back.
Wow. Well, I'd say that's enough trauma for one life.
Yeah.
Stop now.
Yeah. That's what I keep telling God that, but he doesn't listen to me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. All right, it's time for social media. So tell us your website is
CarandanisFineArt.com.
What about other socials?
Instagram and Facebook is at Carandanis Fine Art.
So it's the same for both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. So people will know where to find your art.
Yes.
Your website is packed with stuff, and people can buy things through your website, correct?
Yes.
Your art is there, and I see a lot of things that say sold, 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 sold. That's good.
I got to get busy. I got to replace that.
Yeah, let's go, man. Let's start cranking this stuff out. Well, Cheri, I really appreciate you joining me here. This was a real pleasure talking to you here. It's been I hate to use the word inspiring because some people think it's a cliche, but you really are inspiring. Damn it. You just are. So you better just accept that.
I'll take it. Damn it.
Yeah, take it. Keep on painting. And I'll watch for bigger and better things from you. Cheri Carandanis from Portland, Oregon. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tom. It was a pleasure. And I really enjoyed that conversation.